I want you to think back to like the very first time you moved out on your own. You finally get the keys to your own place.
Oh, yeah, that is a wild feeling.
Right. There's that sudden, intoxicating rush of just like total, unchecked freedom. Nobody is telling you what to do. You can eat ice cream for dinner, stay up until dawn, whatever.
Exactly, but that,
Then, usually within a matter of days, that exhilaration is followed by a crushing reality check.
oh, absolutely.
I mean, the realization hits that you now have to actually pay for the electricity that's, keeping that ice cream cold. You have to decipher a lease agreement, and you have to figure out how health insurance works.
Yeah, the safety net just vanishes overnight. It really is the moment you realize that freedom and responsibility are, well, they're essentially two sides of the exact same coin.
Oh, I like that way of putting it.
Yeah, you just can't enjoy the benefits of one without, carrying the weight of the other.
And that specific dynamic balancing the freedom of adulthood with the raw, like, mechanics of survival,
Hmm.
that is the whole foundation of our deep dive today.
It really is.
We are exploring the life and the massive systemic impact of Jana Merunková. She is the 2025 recipient of the Czech National Bank Governor's Award.
Which is a huge deal.
Right. And she took this incredibly dry, mathematically dense concept of financial literacy and fundamentally re-engineered it into a tool for social integration.
Specifically targeting the most vulnerable members of society, which is what's so fascinating.
Yes, exactly. So to map out how she achieved this, we're synthesizing a few distinct sources today.
We've got the official press releases from the Czech National Bank.
Yep. Those, plus a highly detailed interview she gave to the cultural magazine Kultura21.cz, and also some operational reports from her nonprofit organization, Your Chance.
And, reading through all these materials, you quickly realize this isn't just a retrospective of some successful career.
No, not at all.
It's actually a highly specific operational blueprint for driving large-scale behavioral change across an entire country.
So to understand why she was handed, like, the most prestigious financial award in the country, we have to look at the mechanics of what she actually deployed in the real world. Let's start with her work in the educational system.
Right, because she didn't just advocate for better teaching. She systematically altered the curriculum for a whole generation.
Yeah, the timeline is pretty critical here. She has been operating in this space for more than 15 years now.
Wow, 15 years.
Yeah, back in 2009, she actually walked away from a purely corporate career to become the expert guarantor for this nonprofit, Your Chance.
And her basic premise was that financial literacy and entrepreneurship were just being taught poorly, if they were even being taught at all.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
she and her team, they authored this comprehensive guidebook called Finanční gramotná a podniková úkola, which means the financially literate and enterprising school.
And the scale of this is what really stands out to me.
Right.
I mean, they distributed this guidebook to 6,000 schools across the Czech Republic.
6,000.
Yeah, completely free of charge.
That is insane. But I really want to dig into what they were actually teaching. Like, during the May 2025 awards ceremony, the governor of the Czech National Bank, Aleši Michel, stated that her work proves, and this is a quote, "Financial literacy is not a theory, it's equipment for life."
I love that quote. Equipment for life.
It's so good. But what specifically is the mechanism here? I mean, how does her curriculum differ from, just teaching teenagers how compound interest works on a chalkboard?
Well, the difference lies in application versus abstraction.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Traditional financial education often focuses on the math, right? Like calculating interest rates or defining what a stock portfolio is.
Which puts most teenagers straight to sleep.
Exactly. But Merunková's curriculum treats financial literacy as behavioral psychology and risk management.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it teaches a student how to critically read the terms of a fast cash loan, how to recognize predatory lending traps, and how to construct a functional budget that actually aligns with their living environment.
So it's not about training kids to be Wall Street day traders.
Yeah, not at all.
It's more like teaching them how to read the warning labels on our really hazardous path.
That's a perfect analogy. It is entirely about defensive strategies for everyday survival.
But that makes me wonder about the role of the family. Like, if this is basic survival knowledge, the traditional assumption is that parents teach this to their kids at the kitchen table.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah. So why did she feel it was necessary to spend a decade embedding this directly into the national school infrastructure? Shouldn't this be the parents' job?
Well, the data and her field experience revealed a pretty harsh truth. You simply cannot teach what you do not know.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
A massive percentage of parents out there lack these fundamental skills themselves.
Yeah.
If you rely solely on the family unit to teach financial literacy, you guarantee that financial trauma becomes generational.
Right. So children of financially literate parents pull ahead, while kids whose parents are trapped in, like, payday loan cycles just inherit those exact same blind spots.
Exactly. The school system is really the only lever big enough to break that kind of cycle.
We can actually see the evidence of that parental blind spot in the public reaction to another one of her projects. She co-authored this workbook called Prima Život, or Prima Life.
Oh yeah, I read about this in the sources.
Yeah, the goal was to help young people align their personal life goals with a practical financial plan. But the demographic that reacted the strongest to it wasn't teenagers.
And that is one of the most revealing details in her interview, honestly.
Tell me about it.
The most visceral, emotional feedback to a workbook designed for youth came from adults over the age of 35.
That's wild, over 35.
Yeah. They were reading this material and writing to her, saying, if only I knew this when I was 20, my entire life would look different.
What exactly were these adults realizing they missed? Was it just that they didn't know how to budget?
It was way deeper than basic budgeting. The Prima Život methodology forces the reader to connect abstract financial concepts to concrete life outcomes.
Like what?
Like it asks, what kind of life do you want to build, and what is the exact mathematical reality required to achieve it?
Oh, so it connects the dream to the math.
Right. These adults realized they had spent 15 years treating money as something that just kind of happens to them, rather than a tool they could direct toward a specific goal. They were lacking the fundamental vocabulary to even plan their own lives.
That is heavy. But even with this curriculum blanketing 6,000 schools, there is still a massive systemic blind spot.
Which is?
Well, what happens to the young people who don't have a kitchen table to sit at in the first place? If the school system fails to catch them and there are literally no parents to fall back on, the concept of financial literacy shifts from planning a good life to avoiding immediate catastrophe.
Oh, absolutely. And this brings us to the most critical test of her philosophy. Her organization runs this initiative called Zacznij Sprawnie.
Which translates to start right?
Yes, start right. It is designed explicitly for young people who are aging out of the foster care system and children's homes.
The transition for these youths is brutal. I mean, it isn't like a typical young adult moving into a college dorm while they're still on their parents' cell phone plan.
Not at all. It is a hard institutional cliff edge.
Yeah, Merunková shares quotes from these teenagers in the sources, and the prevailing sentiment is either, I thought I would somehow manage it myself, or just total disbelief when adults warn them about the logistics of the real world.
You really have to consider the mechanics of growing up in state care. For 18 years, basically every meal, every doctor's appointment, and every utility bill is managed by an administrator.
Right. It's totally hands-off for them.
Exactly. These young adults haven't just missed out on financial lessons. They've been actively sheltered from the mechanics of daily logistics.
And then, boom, on their 18th birthday, they are handed their files and told to navigate the world.
Yeah. And without intervention, they are immediate targets for predatory lenders. They have no concept of debt velocity, and they obviously have no familial safety net to bail them out if they miss rent.
So how does the Start Right program actually intervene? If just handing them a brochure isn't enough, what is the operational mechanism that keeps them off the streets?
It functions as a comprehensive, multi-year integration system. It actually starts before they leave the institution, teaching them the literal steps of viewing an apartment, reading a lease, and setting up utilities.
That makes sense. Practical steps.
But crucially, it provides an active mentorship ecosystem after they leave.
Oh, so they're not just abandoned once they turn 18.
Right. They have a designated point of contact to call when their washing machine breaks or when, like, a sketchy job offer promises them a massive cash advance. It is real-time applied financial literacy.
The sources quantify the impact of this program, and to be honest, this is where I really stumbled a bit.
How so?
Well, an independent evaluation from 2022 calculated the social impact of the Zacznij Sprawnie project at 220 million Czech koruna, having integrated over 230 young people.
Yeah, that's a massive number.
I get the math, I do. But doesn't framing human integration entirely around averted financial costs run the risk of reducing these really vulnerable kids to mere state liabilities? How do you even put a 220 million price tag on human integration?
It is a harsh way to look at human lives, certainly. But in the ecosystem of nonprofit funding and state policy, economic impact is pretty much the only universally understood currency.
I guess that's fair. Money talks.
Right. When a youth from the foster system fails to integrate, they often cycle into social housing, unemployment, or the judicial system. The state absorbs massive costs for that failure.
Ah, so it's like she's building a sturdy bridge over a canyon rather than society having to constantly pay for rescue helicopters when people inevitably fall in.
That's a great way to put it. By presenting that 220 million figure, Merunková isn't reducing their humanity. She is forcing the state to recognize their economic value. She's proving that funding a proactive mentorship program is infinitely cheaper than funding the reactive consequences of institutional failure.
Okay, I see. She is essentially speaking the language of the policymakers to force their hand.
Exactly. But preventing a crisis on a spreadsheet doesn't automatically change how society treats these individuals on the street.
Right. And Merunková recognized that systemic change requires cultural change. You can teach a young person how to balance a checkbook, but if society expects them to fail, that psychological burden just remains.
Yeah, the prevailing media narrative around children's homes is overwhelmingly tragic. We usually only read about these kids when a crime occurs or a system breaks down completely.
So to actively combat that negative narrative, she engineered a public relations counteroffensive called the White Crow Award, or Bila Vrana.
Which is such a cool concept.
It really is. A white crow is a Czech idiom for a positive exception, something rare that stands out from the flock.
And she created an award ceremony to forcefully inject these positive outcomes into the public consciousness. And she didn't just host it in some local high school gymnasium.
No, she deliberately secured official political patronage and hosts the awards at the Prague mayor's residence.
She weaponizes prestige. By placing these stories in the highest civic setting, she forces the media and the public to treat these young adults with actual dignity.
The award structure is also highly deliberate. There are two categories. There's the young adult category for the youths who succeed, but there is also a category called Treasure in the Heart.
That one is reserved for the educators, the foster parents, and the mentors.
Right. She is publicly acknowledging that independent success is actually a bit of a myth. Everyone who survives the transition does so because an ecosystem of people chose to invest in them.
What is particularly striking about this award, though, is the metric used to determine the winners.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Because when we think of public awards, we usually think of extraordinary outliers, like tech billionaires, famous artists, Olympic athletes.
Usually we give awards for extraordinary luxury or massive wealth. But the White Crow Award defines success very differently. The sources explicitly state that success for a winner is defined as having a stable job, starting a family, maintaining a home, and staying out of debt.
Essentially just living a quiet, normal life.
Right. And my initial reaction was to question if that sets the bar too low. I mean, does celebrating just a normal life mean we are giving out awards just for existing?
But you have to look at the starting line. When you start life with deep systemic disadvantages, a normal life is a staggering achievement.
That's a good point.
Yeah, if you're lacking generational wealth, lacking the emotional security of a permanent family, and carrying the trauma of institutionalization, achieving baseline normalcy requires heroic effort.
Wow.
For someone with all the advantages, normalcy is the default. For these kids, normalcy is the summit of the mountain.
It fundamentally changes the definition of ambition. A quiet, stable Tuesday without a financial crisis is a massive victory. And by broadcasting that specific victory, she is signaling to every other teenager still living in the state system that this quiet stability is actually possible for them too.
And she amplifies that signal across multiple mediums. It is not just a once-a-year ceremony.
Oh, really?
Yeah, her organization produces a book series and even a Spotify audio series featuring professional voice actors. It's called Hejno Bilish Vinay Flock of White Crows.
Oh, so they map out dozens of these life stories.
Yes, so that a teenager in group home can literally put on headphones and listen to proof that their trajectory is not predetermined.
That is incredibly powerful. But, building and sustaining an infrastructure of this size requires a massive operational engine.
Oh, for sure.
We're talking about curriculum in 6,000 schools, a nationwide mentorship program for foster youth, media production, and high-level civic events. It really begs the question of how the visionary behind all of this actually functions.
Her personal output is honestly difficult to comprehend. Because beyond the educational and integration projects, she's also a published author of poetry and fairy tales.
Seriously, when does she sleep?
I know, right? And if that wasn't enough, since April 2022, she initiated a massive project called Vitej Vsku, which translates to Welcome to Czechia.
This is a whole different demographic. She pivoted to helping Ukrainian refugees, right?
Yes. And again, look at the mechanism here. She didn't just offer temporary charity. She applied her core philosophy of financial and systemic literacy.
So what did they actually do?
The program has helped integrate over 4,500 Ukrainian war refugees.
4,500? That's incredible.
Yeah, it provides intensive business courses, helping them translate their existing professional skills into the Czech regulatory and economic environment. It is about giving them the technical knowledge to rebuild their autonomy in a foreign system.
But integrating 4,500 refugees while simultaneously running a national foster care integration system seems like a guaranteed recipe for executive burnout.
Oh, absolutely.
And in her interview, the journalist actually presses her on this. They ask how she manages the pressure, clearly expecting her to reveal some rigid, high-stress productivity routine.
Right, like waking up at 4 a.m. to take an ice bath.
Exactly. Instead, she casually mentions that she relaxes by horseback riding, inline skating, and attending live music gigs.
She openly admits she never finishes all the tasks on her desk. But the key to her capacity lies in a very specific management philosophy she outlines in the text.
What does she say?
She states, "I am not a big boss. I prefer a culture where people in the team see me as a customer."
That concept completely flips the traditional corporate hierarchy on its head.
It really does.
If you are the boss, you dictate the how. You tell your employees exactly what steps to take, which inevitably leads to micromanagement.
Yeah.
But if you position yourself as the customer, the dynamic changes entirely. It is the difference between trying to lay every single brick of a house yourself versus acting as the architect who clearly commissions a design and then trusts the professional builders to execute it.
It is a masterclass in delegation. As the customer, her role is to define the required outcome, whether that is a new curriculum module or a refugee business course, ensure the team has the necessary budget and resources, and then just step out of their way.
She empowers her team by trusting their expertise. You cannot scale a social movement to a national level if you insist on being the bottleneck for every single decision.
Exactly. And her willingness to relinquish control is deeply rooted in her personal worldview. The sources highlight that she operates on strong Christian values.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She credits her capacity to handle the weight of these projects to God's blessing and a good team. She does not view herself as the savior of the story. Her mandate is to construct an environment where other people can discover their own potential.
That's a very humble approach to such massive work.
It is. There's a specific quote she references that acts as the operating system for her entire methodology. She says, "We only win if we first see ourselves winning in our minds."
That brings all of her diverse projects together perfectly.
Doesn't.
Yeah. Whether she is designing a workbook for a 15-year-old trying to figure out their future, pairing a mentor with a foster youth terrified of their first apartment lease, or helping a refugee navigate the bureaucracy to open a business, the mechanism is the same.
Right.
Before any practical steps can be taken, you have to grant that person the cognitive permission to believe a positive outcome is possible.
If you cannot visualize the victory, you will never endure the friction required to learn the financial literacy or navigate the system to achieve it. The mental shift must precede the structural change.
Which brings us back to the core lesson of Jana Merunková's work. She took a subject most people actively avoid, the stressful, technical world of personal finance, and proved that it is the ultimate tool for human dignity.
It's powerful stuff.
Financial literacy isn't about hoarding wealth. It is about building a personal infrastructure so robust that you don't have to rely on the state to catch you when you fall.
It really forces you, the listener, to audit your own relationship with the coin we discussed at the very beginning. Are you demanding the freedom of adulthood while actively avoiding the responsibility of understanding your own financial realities? Or are you treating your financial literacy as what it truly is, your fundamental equipment for life?
It fundamentally changes how you view your own agency. And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today.
Okay, let's hear it.
We spent a lot of time analyzing the White Crows individuals who achieve stability by actively defying the systemic disadvantages and negative expectations placed upon them. I want you to look at your own life. What negative expectation is society, your industry, or perhaps your own self-doubt currently placing on you? And what specific piece of equipment for life would you need to acquire, starting today, to become a White Crow in your own story?